elevate Black voices, experiences, and cultures.
Welcome to our podcast, Speak Up with AfroSistas. So today's episode is actually on therapy. We'll be discussing the myths and realities of therapy. So today we actually have a quote, and the quote says, "Therapy is a part of my mental health routine. I realized I didn't want to try to figure things out by myself. I can try as much as I can, but doing it all by myself, I end up driving myself insane." Circling the same situation and same problem over and over again. And this quote is actually by Kelly Rowland. So I really like this quote because I think it's relatable, and I think it's the reason why most people actually seek therapy is because they feel stuck. They feel like they can't find attraction or movement in their daily life. So I think that like the quote is just perfect in that it like relays all that. Like we definitely need somebody when we feel stuck that has the expertise and the knowledge to help us move, and whether it's like through therapy, through trying different forms of therapy, or seeking counsel. So I really like this quote.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you for the same reason. So yeah, therapy, I feel like we all, like, we mentioned in our mental health episode, we all go through things, and sometimes we either are stuck and we don't know how to get out of it, so we need someone else's guidance, someone else's advice, or just tools. We need tools that we may not know, and I feel like a therapist has that. It's kind of their their expertise and their profession, so they might know things that may help us. And I feel like on top of that too, we sometimes maybe we do have tools and we have habits, but they're not the healthiest and the most, because there are ways to get over certain things. I feel like using some of those tools might help you become almost like a better person, or be able to better handle certain things.
Situations,
exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we definitely have some maladaptive tools that we sometimes go to instead of using ones that can actually help us. Yeah, more healthy. Yeah. Sonia, when you hear therapy, what comes to your mind?
Therapy. So I actually, when I hear it now, it's different. I feel like there's a bias now because I've done therapy. But before, I think I'll say both. So before I knew about therapy, I think I would just say maybe someone who you can share certain things or share certain things with, that might help you with, or just listen to you too. I don't know, someone that you can share certain secrets with, or things that you're going through that you maybe don't want to share with, family members or friends, or other people that are closer to you, and someone you can just talk to. So that's what I thought before. Now I definitely think, again, it's someone, not, of course, they're listening to you, yes, but it's someone, a way to talk with someone who's knowledgeable, who has tools, knowledge that can help you deal with certain things that you may not know of yet. And just also, someone you can talk to who is kind of who's not biased. So someone who has more of an open mind, and that is definitely important, especially when, again, you're going through certain things that you don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to, or if you, not that you don't feel comfortable, but maybe you have spoken to, family, friends, and you still feel stuck. You feel like, you don't understand what I'm saying, like, I need help. So, yeah, that's what I think. How about you?
So again, I think I'm gonna answer in two parts, like you, like what I thought, or what most people think. Actually, that's what I'm saying. What most people think, and then what my actual thoughts are. So I feel like most people, first of all, when they get therapy, it's like, oh, are you talking about like a physical therapist? Are you talking about like a speech therapist? So people like when you just say therapy, sometimes I don't think they relate it to mental health right away. They relate it for people I've spoken to, they relate it to other type of therapy that are out there, and not necessarily mental health. And again, I think they also relate it to, like you said, kind of like somebody like that you just go and talk to. I think people have that visual of like going to somebody's house or somebody's office and just sitting on the couch and just talking. And the person is just like, okay,
exactly.
like taking notes, and then it's like, all right, we're done. So I feel like that's like the image that pops up. Like when you're like, no, I'm not talking about those other therapy. I'm talking about like mental health therapy. They're like, oh, so like just like somebody that listens to people's problem. I'm like, no. So again, as a therapist, like oftentimes I have to be like, no, I'm not, like, that's not what we do. We are, part of our job is to listen, definitely, because people are coming with things to say. But I think that, like you said, we provide tools. There are definitely modalities that we use, there are treatments that we use, there are tools that we use to help people that have different issues. Like somebody might just come because they're stuck because of different things, or some people deal with mental health diagnosis that we've talked about on our previous episode on mental health. So I think that it's much more than just I'm confident.
I'm telling you, it's not your best friend over here.
Yes, it is not. That's not what we're doing.
I like that. Okay. So I think it's important to start with the definition of therapy now that we discuss, kind of what we thought and what we think now of therapy. So therapy, it's also called psychotherapy or counseling, like Sela mentioned. And it's the process of meeting with a therapist to resolve problematic behaviors, beliefs, feelings, relationship issues, or somatic responses. So sensations in the body. That's what somatic responses are. Oh, I like that definition. I don't think I would have put, like, you guys heard what that therapy was. I wouldn't have put all that together.
Yes. So I think people often do think that it's just one thing, like we're just listeners, or we're just there to just kind of like a when people need to vent, they just need like that open space. But it's much more than that. Like people actually have serious diagnosis they're dealing with, and venting is not does not resolve it.
No,
it helps, but it does not resolve it.
But it doesn't resolve. No.
Yes.
We need solutions.
Yes.
Tools. Yeah.
Yes. So Sonia, have you ever been in therapy? And if yes, what was your experience?
So I have. I've been in therapy once. I think in the last maybe 3 years. No, not 3. Maybe more like 2 years ago. It was my first time, and my experience overall was good for a first exposure, first time seeing a therapist. I think I spoke, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but what I was going through certain things in my life in that period. And I always in the back of my head had the idea that I want to go see a therapist, because I'm the type of person when sometimes I have a lot of questions about myself, and whether it's in relationships, about certain things that happened in my past, not just relationship, even family, like certain behaviors. Like I've gone through so many, even now, like I remember maybe a weekend or two ago, like I had a conversation with my family, like it brought up some questions, and it's like, okay, it makes me want to figure out certain things about myself. So at that time when I started therapy, I had just ended a relationship that was probably the worst relationship I've ever been in. Definitely toxic. So it just shook me because I never went through that or that type of experience before. I've been in relationships before. It wasn't my first relationship, but it didn't those relationships didn't create those as many questions, as many doubts. It didn't trouble me as much as this relationship, both for more so for myself, because I was wondering, like, wow, like, how did I end up here? How did I end up in this relationship that's like terrible? How like there must have been, so I had a lot of questions that I was asking myself, because I was trying to figure out, how when you're in relationships, you're trying to have closure, but the way relationship ends, sometimes you don't have closures. It's not like you can talk to the, and even if you can talk to the person, it's not like they're gonna give you that
maybe the answer that you're looking for.
Exactly.
Or sometimes it comes from their perspective.
Exactly, which may not, most of the time, is not necessarily the reality and the real thing. So I just felt, okay, like, I wanted to start from the beginning, try to understand, okay, like, what is this pattern? Because even though it was the worst one, and I regretted, it was a terrible experience, there were some things that were similar in that, and that I could see in other relationships. So I kind of went, my first question was, okay, like, what's the relationship, what's this pattern that I keep having with men, even going back to men in my life, like family, like where is this coming from? Like, why am I, my question was, why do I need, like, I'm so attached to love, like, why do I feel like I really need this love no matter what? Like, I almost felt like I didn't really actually know what love was. So, because to me, it was so deceiving, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, why do I always fall into this trap thinking, this person loves me, or I'm in love with this person, but is it really love? So that's how it started. But it evolved into something greater than that, or more than just that. So and I kind of wish that we had spent more time on that, like, going literally from the beginning, like, okay, relationship with your father, relationship with other, men in your life, exactly. And then going into, I kind of got looped into some other situations, and I was like, because you come, like, it was like weekly for me. So I come, and whatever is on my mind, we start talking about that. If I had an incident at home, I start talking about that, and I'm like, I don't understand. I want to get someone else's perspective, because I don't know what to do to improve whatever is going on. So she gave me some tools, some exercises. Like, I didn't expect that. Like I was saying, I was like, let me vent, and then she's gonna tell me, what she thinks, her professional, I guess her guidance, what she thinks professionally, what's going on, But I felt like, okay, I did get homework, but it didn't go necessarily how deep I wanted it to go. So that's why I said overall it was good. Like, I think I got a good initial introduction to therapy. But the other thing too that I wish also, not that I wish, that I'm working towards, because I think it's also just like a doctor, any doctor, or anything else, even like going to the salon. Like, I feel like you need to find also a therapist that you're comfortable with, that it's almost like finding that match also. Yeah. And I feel like I'm still in the process of that. Like, that wasn't the perfect match for me, but it was good. It helped me. So one of the things that I really liked about it, it helped me kind of think differently. So some of the homework she gave was like, okay, like, you have to take things and literally analyze it. Like, an example that has nothing to do with relationship. Like, one of the things that I struggle with is when people point out certain things about me that are obvious. I think I spoke about that when we talk about body image. But the other thing, well, I guess it's a part of body image, I don't have the most perfect skin. I have acne. I've had that for years, since puberty. So even small things like that, how to address, set boundaries, I think that's part of what it is. How to set boundaries and let people know, people who are close to me, how to talk to me about those things, how to, like, what are my triggers, I guess, how to explain that to them so that they know how it makes me feel when they talk a certain way. So those are all things, it was kind of a little bit of a few of those things that happened that helped, throughout the therapy session. So we touched on a few things, and again, those things were really things that were happening. So if I, had an incident, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so upset, this happened, this happened,
Yes.
I would bring that up. But it started with, okay, listen, I'm still trying to heal and get over, understand this whole situation. But since I come see you every week, let's talk about what happened yesterday. Let's talk about what happened this week. So,
And was there a reason? Because I think you said that this was your first time.
Yeah.
But you're not. Are you still in therapy now?
No.
No.
So I stopped when I didn't lose my job. I quit my job. So when I came back from Cameroon, because it took me longer to find another job, I stopped, which was actually terrible. I feel like if I had continued, it would have helped me deal with some of the, depression, stress, everything that I was going through during that year. Yeah. So how about you? Have you ever been in therapy? What's your experience like?
So I have been in therapy, and my experience. So I started therapy when I was in grad school. I had a really good teacher that was like, "Can't be a therapist if you've never been in therapy." And I mean, I thought it was great advice because I think as going to school as a mental health professional, you have an idea of what therapy is supposed to look like. And I remember going to this therapist, and it was definitely not what I expected. And by that, what I mean is like I didn't expect kind of like the challenges. So I think it depends on like what therapist you get. There are definitely like, I think personality, because it is something that's so intimate. Being in therapy is so intimate. You're literally divulging yourself to this person, and this person is having to be present there with you. So I didn't expect this person to kind of challenge me on some of the things that I brought up. And I feel like going to school, like, when I was learning about therapy, it was kind of like, the motion, you learn about all the kind of like theories that goes on in the treatment, but you don't really, I mean, we do like role plays and stuff like that, but I feel like those are always like in our comfort zone, like you always stay within your comfort zone, like you don't really push yourself. So like I remember like this therapist like pushing me out of my comfort zone and asking me like deep questions that I'd never really asked myself. And I was like, oh, okay, like, this is serious. Like, wait, we're really talking about this. And going deep and like really opening up about like things that I was like, whoa, like I never really thought about, like my childhood and like how much it affected me as, at the present moment where I was in my life, and kind of like reflecting back on like, what was like my life then and like how it contributes to my life now. So I felt like it definitely helped me in being a therapist today, having that experience. And for me so I continued, I think, for like almost a year with that therapist while I was in grad school. And the reason I stopped was because I moved out the area. So it was like where I was going to grad school. So after grad school, when I graduated, I moved out of that area. And also life happened, started working and never actually gone back to therapy, but I think that it's definitely something that I definitely want to go back to. And I definitely like think that like for me, you brought up, the fact that you need to find somebody that you're comfortable with, and somebody that, you're willing to really build that relationship with, because it's so intimate. Like it's so intimate. And especially for, I think for us, African immigrants, like first generation America, like in Cameroon, unfortunately, or in Africa in general, like we said in our last episode, like mental health is not really spoken about. There's a lot of stigma. A lot of people don't even know what a therapist is.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like everyday people don't know what a therapist is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that that's a resources. That's a resource that can be available to them. So even when I was choosing this field and going to therapy, it was a lot of discussion around that, like kind of breaking down that stigma, because even like though I was like in the field and learning about this, there was a lot of like stigma that I was feeling from people in my community is saying like, why are you doing this field or da da da, and I will bring that up in like my therapy sessions and be like, like how did you get involved in this, and like and like one thing that I love, when you do find that therapist that is definitely like culturally informed, like because there are just some therapists that are not, like it's like evident like that are not, but I fortunately found somebody that was yes, that was culturally informed, and I think it maybe is because like it was in the grad school aspect, like it was somebody that was recommended to me by a teacher, and like I guess maybe they've had experience of others that this was their first time, and I guess they've done the homework too of being culturally informed. But again, it was a lot of like homework, deep reflections of kind of like, I would ask questions, but this question would be returned to me in certain ways for me to do the work. And I think you have to do the work. It isn't the therapist that does your work. They help you through it. But you have to do the work. But I think having a culturally informed therapist definitely made my first time very easy, and I think that's why we continued for such a long time. It was because I definitely felt comfortable bringing it up to the person. So there are different modes of therapy. So Sonia and I both have gone to like the individual therapy, but there are family therapists. There are group therapy. There is like school, school-based therapy where you get it in school or in like the university or elementary. Like now it even starts like elementary. And there's also like couple counseling or marriage counseling. There's also pastoral counseling. So it's not always like pastoral counseling. They also deal with like mental health issues, like so there are different forms, and you can see again different people that are mental health professionals. So oftentimes people are like, oh wait, you're a social worker, are you really a therapist? And I'm like, yeah, because I was like trained clinically to do that work. I was trained as a mental health professional, and there are definitely some social workers that don't have the clinical background, and maybe they have more of the like macro background. So you have to like find social workers that are therapists, but social workers are therapists, and there's like psychiatrists that can they do the medication side, but they can also provide like one-to-one counseling or group counseling. And then there are psychologists, which most people, when they think of a therapist, they think of a psychologist.
I was confused.
So but all of those people are therapists, or even a pastoral counselor is still a therapist, but it's just in different format. So we wanted to let you guys know all these different modes of therapy. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to our next questions. So Sonia, do you know anybody? So both of the experiences are pretty positive. Do you know of anybody that's had a bad experience?
I mean, I don't. Kind of bad. It wasn't like dramatically like terrible. But I think the bad came from not getting going into therapy, not getting what you expected out of it. I think maybe part of it came from, again, not finding the right therapist, right match. And again, like all professions, it doesn't mean because you're a therapist that you're the best, or you're you can have doctors who are better than others. You can have certain people who are better at their profession than others. So it just didn't it didn't go, it didn't match. It wasn't that intimacy, and that, I guess, maybe that openness, because you need to feel comfortable to really be able to share certain things and do the work and share, that process with the therapist. So that's why I said, it sounded like, oh my gosh, like a dramatic bad, but yeah. How about you?
Same. I've definitely had some people that have had bad experience, and I think that again it goes to the match. And what I always say is like, it's kind of like a doctor. Like you go to a doctor's office and you walk in there and you're just not feeling the vibe, or the doctor is kind of like, oh, like you're telling the doctor, oh, I have these symptoms, and the doctor is like, well, you have this, and you're like, well, I don't really feel like I have that. Like, can you listen to what I'm telling you? And the doctor is kind of just like, matter of fact, like just wants to go to the next patient type of thing. So, and then you're like, wait, I'm never coming back to you. It's kind of the same thing. Like if you go to a first session and you just feel like the energy is not the same, the vibe is not the same. Definitely the next time just call and say, you know what, I'm sorry, but I don't think this is working. I think some people feel some people don't like that because they're like, well, was the problem me? Like how come I don't
exactly.
Like how
internalize that.
They might internalize that. Like how come I went to this therapist and it didn't work out? But it's not you. It's just like the vibe wasn't matching. And most therapists honestly would tell you it's okay. Like it's okay for us not to continue if you're feeling like you are not you're not able to share things with me, or you're not comfortable, whatever the reason may be. Most therapists would gladly refer you to other people that they think that you'll match better to, and like they should. Like that's what should actually happen.
That's a professional conduct. Exactly.
So I think that like overall, like most people that have had bad experiences, also like you said, expectation, because they went in expecting so much, and I think sometimes expecting so much from the therapist, not realizing that like you have to do the work.
That's what I said when I said like some people come in thinking that the therapist has the solution and will do the work. Like you just come talk, they tell you, but you have to do the work. Like,
so I think that when people realize that they have to do the work, and that it's more of it's definitely like a back and forth, like a dance with you and your therapist, but most of the work, because the issues are coming from you, like whatever is bringing you to therapy it's internal, and like the therapist can give you tools, they can try modalities, but really you are the greatest tool in there. Like you're the one pushing the work forward. So if you're not willing to do that, then you're gonna feel again that feeling of being stuck, or feeling like I don't like this, or I don't want to continue, or what's the point? Like you're not giving me what I want. And unfortunately, therapy is not about getting what you want. Sometimes you go in there seeking something, and you get something totally different. So it's like be ready for that. Like I think when you go to therapy, you have to have no expectation. Like the expectation should be, I want somebody who I can be open with, but I'm going to give it a try. Like that should be the expectation, but not but not like I want somebody that's gonna fix everything and do this and do that and tell me
everything that I'm not understanding. Like just have the solution to everything.
Because that is not what therapy is, and that's not what's gonna happen, unfortunately.
And I think so. Going back on maybe like a positive aspect of therapy, what did you find most helpful in your experience?
So I think again, I think the tools definitely was helpful. It was one of the most helpful aspect for me of learning the different tools, because sometimes you go through things and you don't have necessarily the words to describe what you're going through. Like, for example, like, we all have kind of like those negative thought process and things like that. And I think it's different, like learning about it in a theory base. Again, I was in school, so I was learning about that in theory base. But from actually applying it to my life, I was like, this makes so much sense now.
Exactly.
This is what you meant. Or like, I have a tendency of like generalizing things a lot. Like if something happens, then I would be like, oh, like in the future, this is what's gonna happen. Like if I had that experience, I would definitely be like, oh, I'm never gonna try this again, because if I do it again, this is what is gonna happen. And like learning about like that is my thought process, and having to stop myself when I'm thinking like that, like that's not true. Like what's actually the fact? Like that's exactly is gonna happen, because it's never the same scenario. So like again, just like those different tools that I learned. But I also think the second thing that I'm gonna say that I found very helpful about therapy is growing up. Again, we talked about this in our episode on mental health. But growing up, not having the ability to speak a lot about what was going on in my life then, kind of felt very isolating, and definitely felt like I bottled a lot of things up. So it definitely felt like freeing. Having the possibility to talk openly again in this judgment-free zone, where it's just like I could just like unleash all these things that I was like bottled up for so long, and again, just in a judgment-free zone, not having to necessarily feel afraid of saying certain things. So those two things for me have been, positive aspect of therapy. What about you?
I like those a lot, because those were definitely things that I found positive too, that I've experienced in therapy. And just to add, let me add maybe different ones so we can have different examples. I think another aspect that I found helpful was not, I don't know, I feel like almost therapy helped me be more empathetic, kind of like having another person's perspective about the whole situation. That again, it goes back to, okay, the person is not biased, but at the same time, it's almost like they're forcing you to think differently. So think about whether it goes from negative to more thinking positively, or stopping yourself from having certain beliefs about yourself, and actually trying to understand, for example, like how to communicate. I mean, like that is one of the examples for me was being a better communicator, and with my family members, and also setting boundaries. So again, I guess that kind of goes into tools as well. But there are things; those were things that I never had the words, like you said, to kind of voice what my problem, or what was going on with me, like. And again, like it goes into that kind of you again would see, I would see a pattern, because it wasn't just like I mentioned, like I started kind of in relationship, but some of those patterns will show up in other, well, when I say relationship, I started in more like intimate relationships, but some of those patterns will go into communication. Some of those patterns will go in how I have a hard time setting boundaries and things like that. So, and I also like the aspect of kind of giving you homework and giving you just questions and tools that you wouldn't have thought of, like how I wouldn't have thought of, thinking about, I can't really come up, I don't remember exactly what the specific example was for me, but it has to do with changing the way you think or the way you approach a certain situation. So the way you think about it, and also the way the other person thinks about it. So yeah, I found that very helpful. So that aspect, and again, it definitely if I had done it longer, because it's one thing to do it while you're how creating a habit and changing things, it takes a while. So I feel like I kind of lost, like I said, I think it's been maybe almost 2 years since I stopped, or a year and a half. So I feel like what I started doing with my therapist, I completely lost, or I don't know, how to rebuild those habits. It's almost like I need help again to go back to that. So that's why I think that therapy is like it's an ongoing thing, whether it's you going there or you continuing to practice those habits, or those using those tools to guide you.
I agree with you, right? And I even say with like my clients that like therapy isn't supposed to be like like one time done deal, or like continual thing. So it's definitely like a place where you go for as long as you feel like you need to go. And at the same time, I think that the reason, like, if you have a good therapist, if you're there for a really long time, the therapist should point out to you where you guys are in that, in your treatment, and if things are not changing or things like that, because I think that therapy is a tool, right? So if if for some reason you're going to therapy and you're getting the help that you are, like for me, it's kind of a tool that you gain and then you try your own for a little bit, and then if you still need help, like you come back to it, get more help, or and then go back again to try to use it. And I definitely know there are cases, like again, this is by cases situation, because there are definitely people that have more intensive needs and definitely need to be in therapy for a long time, continually, and sometimes need therapy more than once a week. Like I think we both did once a week. But there's some people that need twice a week. There's some people that need individual, but then at the same time need family, So, and at the same time can even need group. Like, so it depends on the issue you're dealing with. But I definitely think that overall, like, it's to build you up, so that you can go ahead and live a life where you don't necessarily need to go to therapy weekly or 3 times a week or 2 times a week, right? Like, I think there's a point that those time needs to be weaned up a little bit, and you try to stand on your own before, like, if things are still not working, you going back.
Recharge.
And again, this is my opinion.
Yes. I mean, I would say that I think it's for me. I know I haven't done it personally at my therapy. It hasn't been continuous since I started. But I do. I mean, if you're able to, like she said, if you're able to use those tools on your own, and even find other tools, like if you're able to do that by yourself, for certain things, because sometimes you go to therapy because certain things triggered in your life or certain things happen in your life, and to me, what you explained, it totally makes sense. You go in there, you learn maybe for this particular issue, I need to use these tools. I need to be doing this. I need to do these type of activities, or these different types of therapies are gonna help me. But again, like it's to help you so that you're able to do those things by yourself. It's not because you go there, like you said, you go there. Let's say you're someone who goes there once a week. Yeah, you go there once a week, but technically, I mean, they give you homework. It's not for you to just do that one day. Like, literally, these tools are supposed to help you build a certain, either change the way you think, different habits, different ways of thinking, so that you can change your beliefs, certain, negative beliefs, or things that are not necessarily helping you and, becoming, healthier, or just better mentally and dealing with things better. So I do agree with you that, it's on and off, but at the same time, it's okay also if you do it continuously. Because again, it just gives you that space that to me is different than a space that you would have with, a family member. It's a different type of relationship. And definitely, if you need it for an extended period of time, over and over again, you always have to come back to it. I feel like it's completely fine. I personally believe that everyone needs therapy. So we all have stuff that we either have gone through or are going through, will go through. Like, it's okay. It's always good. I feel like it's good to have that experience and have that knowledge. I know there are people who say that you can also get that knowledge from you can get it yourself, like you can, but not everyone. Like, a lot of people need help. Like, it's not easy for you to, because knowledge is one thing, like we said, they give you those tools, but you have to be able to take the action and actually do it. And sometimes that's hard. So I feel like almost like a therapist also keeps you accountable, because it's like, listen, you have homework, you got, so that helps, definitely.
I think you went into our last question, which was would you recommend therapy to others? And I definitely think you answered that. And I agree with you. I think everybody at one point of time needs to be in therapy, and I think it's just also the ability to learn about yourself. It doesn't have to be that you have an issue. It doesn't have to be that there's there's a diagnosis that needs to bring you there. It doesn't. It can just be, I want to learn about myself. I want to learn about Sonia's, the parents in my life, the choices I've made in life. I want to, and it could be even I want to boost my my self-esteem. I want my confidence. Or there are things that have gone in your family, and you're like, I want to stop that cycle. I've noticed this, and I don't want this to happen to me. So there are so many reasons. The list is so long about why people should go to therapy. But one thing I want to mention is that most of the times, when we speak about, I've noticed also a lot of people that come to therapy most of the times are women, or kids, and it's really, really hard for males and men to come to therapy. So I kind of, wanted to close our discussion about that. Sonia, what would you say to, a male? How would you encourage a male to go to therapy?
That's a really good question. I think we have a hard time, or men in society, I think I would say that going to therapy is not a weakness. Again, that whole, I guess idea that we have in society that, you shouldn't, a man, you should be tough, you shouldn't show your feelings, you shouldn't. We're all human, whether you're a woman or a man. So we all have feelings. We all have, things that happen, things we go through. And again, it kind of brings up again, I love the fact that you mentioned that a huge part of, actually, I think therapy, it's about you. So you're getting to know yourself better. And when you know yourself better, I feel like it's another way to improve yourself. So it's, to me, just like you're improving your health. I think we mentioned that when we talk about mental health. You're improving, it's a part of that. It's a part of improving yourself. When you know yourself better, when you are able to, when you have a better, emotional intelligence, when therapy is only, when you do the work, it's only going to add goodness to your life and to you. So I think that men, especially Black men, we need y'all. We need y'all to be to heal, just like we do too as Black women too, as Black women as well. But we really, I really encourage that, and I want to tell you that it's courageous, because like Stella said, not a lot of men go to therapy, and it's showing strength. So don't, that idea of showing that it's negative. I actually love the fact that there are a few Black men. I know, like Charlemagne the God, he talks a lot about therapy. He's a man, he's a Black man, and how everyone needs it. So I think that we need to encourage that a lot more for our men.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think you definitely spoke about some of the things I was gonna say, about like the strength. Like it's a strength. It's not a weakness. But it's also like we're all humans, and I feel like because this society is so patriarchal, sometimes we put on these expectations for men that are not totally true, or that are really hard to live up to.
They're not realistic.
They're not realistic. And everybody needs and everybody needs an outlet. Everybody needs a safe space, and this is what therapy is. Like it's your safe space, it's my safe space, it's anybody's safe space to go in and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. Whatever it is that is on your heart. But it's just about like having a safe space to really just open up and say the things that are going on in your life, and where you don't have to hold these expectations that society puts on you, where you can just totally again like be yourself, learn about yourself, improve yourself. So I would definitely encourage everybody to go to therapy, but especially a Black man, because I don't think it's stressed enough that you guys also need to go, and that this is something for everybody. So to end our session today, we just want to encourage anybody to please let us know your experience about therapy. Let us know whether it was good, bad, ugly. We want to know, because we learn from each other, and we can provide some resources, like how to maybe find other therapists and things like that. So we definitely want to know your experience. Let us know on our Instagram page at We Are AfroSister, or on our YouTube page. You can always email us. Our email is always in our description profile, wherever wherever you have all the written words and everything is definitely there. So thank you so much, guys. And we'll see you on the next episode of Speak Up with AfroSistas. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell, and also comment and share.